One of the greatest defining moments of the Islamic faith was the Battle of Badr. The battle was fought on Tuesday, the 13th of March, 624 CE, the 17th of Ramadan, 2 AH in the Islamic calendar Hijri, and it happened in the Hijaz region of Western Arabia, which is today known as Saudi Arabia. This was a key battle in the early days of Islam and a turning point in Muhammad's, peace be upon him, struggle with his opponents amongst the Quraysh pagans in Mecca. The battle has been passed down in Islamic history as a decisive victory attributable to divine intervention, or also known by secular sources to the strategy genius of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. It is one of the few battles specifically mentioned in the Holy Quran. All knowledge of the battle at Badr comes from traditional Islamic accounts, hadiths and the biographies of the Blessed Prophet, recorded in written form sometime after the battle. There is little evidence outside of these of the battle. There are no descriptions of the battle prior to the 9th century. Prior to the battle, the Muslims and the pagan Meccans had fought several smaller skirmishes in late 623 and early 624. Badr, however, was the first large-scale engagement between the two forces. Advancing to a strong defensive position, the Prophet's well-disciplined force broke the Meccan lines, killing several important Qurayshi leaders, including the Muslims' chief antagonist Abu Jahl. For the early Muslims, the battle was the first sign that they might eventually defeat their enemies among the Meccans. Mecca at that time was one of the richest and most powerful cities in the whole of Arabia and the surrounding geographical region, fielding an army 3 times larger than that of the Muslims. The Muslim victory also signaled to other tribes that a new power had arisen in Arabia and strengthened the Prophet's position as the leader of the often fractious community in Medina. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born in Mecca around 570 CE into the well-known Quraysh tribe. After the Prophet Muhammad's revelation from Jibreel in 610 until its proclamation of monotheism to the Quraysh, Islam was practiced primarily in secret. The Quraysh, who traditionally accepted religious practices other than their own, became increasingly more intolerant of the Muslims during the 13 years of personal attacks against their religions and gods. In fear for their religion and economic viability, which heavily relied on annual pilgrimages, the Meccans began to mock and disrupt Muhammad's, peace be upon him, followers. In 622, Muhammad, peace be upon him, bade many of his followers to migrate from Mecca to the neighboring city of Medina, which was approximately 320 kilometers, maybe some 200 miles north of Mecca. Shortly thereafter, the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, himself left for Medina. This migration is often known as the Hijrah. The Quranic verse 22:39, uttered by Muhammad, peace be upon him, sometime shortly after the migration, permitted Muslims for the first time to take up arms in self-defense. During this period, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, employed 3 broad military strategies against the Meccans. Firstly, to establish peace treaties with the tribes surrounding Medina, especially with those from whom the Meccans could derive most advantage against the Muslims. Secondly, to dispatch small groups to obtain intelligence on the Quraysh and their allies, and also provide opportunities for those Muslims still living in Mecca to leave with them. Thirdly, to intercept the trade caravans of the Meccans that passed close to Medina and to obstruct their trade route. In September 623, Muhammad ﷺ himself led a force of 200 in an unsuccessful raid against a large caravan. Shortly thereafter, the Meccans launched their own raids against Medina, led by Hurs bin Jabir, and fled with livestock belonging to the Muslims. In January 624, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, dispatched a group of 8 men to Nakala on the outskirts of Mecca, led by Abdullah bin Jahsh, to obtain intelligence on the Quraysh. However, Abdullah bin Jahsh and his party, disguised as pilgrims with shaved heads, upon being discovered by a Meccan caravan, decided to attack and kill as many of the caravan as possible, resulting in killing one of its men, Amr bin al-Hadrami, the seizing of its good and taking 2 as prisoners. The situation was all the more serious since the killing occurred in the month of Rajab, a truce month sacred to the Meccans, in which fighting was prohibited and a clear affront to Arab traditions. Upon their return to Medina, Muhammad, peace be upon him, initially disapproved of this decision on their part, rebuked them, and refused to take any spoil until he claimed to receive revelation, Quran 2:217, stating that the Meccan persecution was worse than this violation of the sacred month. After his revelation, Muhammad, peace be upon him, took the good and prisoners. The Muslim raids on caravans prompted the Battle of Badr, the first major battle involving a Muslim army. This was the spot where the Meccans had sent their own army to protect their caravans from Muslim raiders. In April 624, it was reported in Medina that Abu Sufyan was leading a caravan from Syria, known in Arabic as Sham, to Mecca, containing weapons to be used against the Muslims. Muhammad, peace be upon him, gathered 313 men and went to Badr to intercept the caravan. However, Meccan spies informed Abu Sufyan about the Muslims coming to intercept his caravan. Abu Sufyan changed his course to take another path to Mecca and sent a message to Mecca. Abu Jahl replied to Abu Sufyan's request and gathered an army to fight against the Muslims. The Prophet's forces included Abu Bakr, Umar, Ali, Hamza, Musab ibn Umair, Al-Zubair bin Al-Awam, Amr ibn Yasir, and Abu Zar al-Ghifari, blessings upon them. The Muslims also brought 70 camels and 2 horses, meaning that they either had to walk or fit 3 to 4 men per camel. The future Caliph Uthman stayed behind to care for his sick wife Ruqayya, the daughter of the Prophet. Salman, the Persian, also could not join the battle as he was still not a free man. Many of the Quraysh nobles, including Amir ibn Hisham, Walid ibn Utbah, Utbah ibn Rabi'ah, and Umayyah ibn Khalaf, joined the Meccan army. Their reasons varied. Some were out to protect their financial interests in the caravan, others wanted to avenge Ibn al-Hadrami, the guard killed at Nakhla. Finally, a few must have wanted to take part in what expected to be an easy victory against the Muslims. Amr ibn Hisham is described as shaming at least one noble, Umayyah ibn Khalaf, into joining the expedition. When the word reached the Muslim army about the departure of the Meccan army, Muhammad, peace be upon him, immediately called a council of war. Since there was still time to retreat, and because many of the fighters there were recent reverts or converts, known as the Ansar or helpers, to distinguish them from the Qurayshi Muslims, who had only pledged to defend Medina. Under the terms of the constitution of Medina, they would have been within their rights to refuse to fight and leave the army. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Behold, Allah promised you one of the two enemy parties, that it should be yours. Ye wished that the one unarmed should be yours, but Allah willed to justify the truth according to His words and to cut off the roots of the unbelievers. Quran, Surah Al-Anfal 8:7. Abu Bakr stood up and gave a short speech saying, "The chiefs and warlike men of Quraysh have joined this army. Quraysh have not at all expressed faith in a religion and have not fallen from the zenith of glory to the abyss of degradation. Furthermore, we have not come out of Medina fully prepared." Abu Bakr was trying to say that he believed they should not fight and should return to Medina. Miqdad then gave a speech supporting the Prophet, saying, "O Prophet of Allah, our hearts are with you, and you should act according to the orders given to you by Almighty. By Allah, we shall not tell you what Bani Israel told Musa, peace be upon him. When Musa asked them to perform jihad, they said to him, 'O Musa, you and your Lord should go and perform jihad, and we shall sit here.' We, however, tell you quite the reverse of it and say, 'Perform jihad under the auspices of the blessings of Allah, and we are also with you and shall fight in self-defense.'" The Prophet was pleased at Miqdad's speech. However, he also wanted to know what the Ansar thought, as Miqdad was a Muhajir. Sa'ad ibn Ubadah, an Ansar, then declared, "We have borne witness that you are the messenger of God. We have given you our pledge to obey you. Wherever you go, we shall go with you. If there is a showdown with the polytheists, we shall be steadfast in our support to you. In war and in peace, we shall be consistently faithful to you." So the Muslims continued to march towards Badr. By the 11th of March, both armies were about a day's march from Badr. Several Muslim warriors, including, according to some sources, Ali, who had ridden ahead of their main column, captured 2 Meccan water carriers at the Badr wells. Expecting them to say they were with the caravan, then Muslims were horrified to hear them say they were with the main Qurayshi army. Some traditions also say that upon hearing the names of the Qurayshi nobles accompanying the army, the Prophet exclaimed, "Mecca hath thrown unto you the best morsels of her liver." The next day, the Prophet ordered a forced march to Badr and arrived before the Meccans. The Badr wells were located on the gentle slope of the eastern side of a valley called Yalyal. The western side of the valley was hemmed in by a large hill called Akankal. When the Muslim army arrived from the east, the Prophet initially chose to form his army at the first well he encountered. Hubab ibn al-Mundhir, however, asked him if this choice was divine instruction or the Prophet's own opinion. When the Prophet responded in the latter, Hubab suggested that the Muslims occupy the well closest to the Qurayshi army and block off the other ones. The Prophet accepted this decision and moved right away. By contrast, while little is known about the progress of the Qurayshi army from the time it left Mecca until its arrival just outside Badr, several things are worth noting. Although many Arab armies brought their women and children along on campaigns, both to motivate and care for the men, the Meccan army did not. Also, the Quraysh apparently made little or no effort to contact the many allies they had scattered throughout the Hijaz. Both facts suggest the Quraysh lacked the time to prepare for a proper campaign in their haste to protect the caravans. Besides, it is believed They expected an easy victory, knowing that they outnumbered the Muslims at least by 3 to 1.